And the first part of it, as last week, is palms down. So just a physical kind of expression of us coming before God and letting go. So just let your hands express your giving, your letting go. So the tasks today, those different relationships, the struggles of this day. We're not abandoning these things, but putting them into the hands of the God who assures us that underneath are the everlasting arms. And then turning our hands over to take hold of all that God has for us. The gifts of His presence with us, insights and guidance to help us. We come with empty hands, but the Lord offers His whole self to us. Be still. Stay in God's presence. Psalm 46 says, "Be still and know that I am God." The problem about doing prayer activities like that is that then you don't really want to do anything else. And it will be nice, it feels as if you could stay there for the next 20 minutes or so. So this is the course that we're doing. So last week we did about being convinced in our faith, and this week it's about having support of community. So it's all about community. And then week 3 and 4 will be back in here. I think we'll just stay in hall. Let's just say that we're staying here, okay? So 7:30, 7:15 to set up if you're around. And then 5 and 6 are ones that you can do back within your home groups, small groups, where we can sort of slot other people into those groups as well. That would be lovely if we can do that, just to finish that off. So that will be after Easter that we'll end up finishing off the course, because what in effect is week 5 is our annual meeting, and then week 6 is going to be our prayer night. So just a chance to pray and to engage with God, and that will be in the church. So this was what we were doing last week, about being convinced about God's big story, and that His big story is true. And if we know that that is true, then we're more confident in our roles as disciples. So that was what last week sort of all hinged on. This is a bit of a summary of it. So our life on the front line, discovering what a difference we can make. These the Bible verses, Jesus showing His hands and saying, "I'm real, I'm here." And the Bible passage as well, I'm convinced that nothing, remember all those horrible things that happened to Paul, but nothing can separate us from the love of God. And those things, along with many other words from the Bible, help convince us that actually this is worth the journey, it's worth telling other people, this is good news to share, not just for us, but for others as well. Just in case, I think there's one or two people who weren't here last week, so your front line, the place where you spend the majority of your time outside of church. We worked out last week that we probably spent, I don't know, four hours at the most, probably at church. And then all of the rest of the time, we're somewhere else. So in that somewhere else, we're in contact with people who don't know Jesus, and we want them to know the love of God. This little cartoon that I found summarised it very well. So where the church is, here, everywhere. Wherever you are, when you're at home, the church is there, because you're the church, we're the church. So all of those different places. And then we talked about challenges and opportunities and problems at the end of last week's session. So I'm just going to give you a couple of moments to say, how was your front line this week? As a Christian, how was your front line? Was it really difficult? Was it okay? Did you see some opportunities that you haven't seen before? And if you've got people who are this is their first time, they give them a chance to say what their front line is. So I'll hand over to you. So a challenge and an opportunity you will encounter.
Can't remember. I've done so much, I can't remember. I think one of the things I like to do is when you see something, or you see something, you must have done something. You were on the front line. You didn't pop anyone on the nose, I wouldn't have thought. And I'm sure you were a lovely customer. Yeah, Friday night treats. Yeah.
You meet people all the time, don't you?
Yeah. Me, it's either adults or children. Yeah. Probably is that I just bounce from one thing to another. And then I can't remember half of it.
Well, you can listen to somebody, talk to somebody like I didn't go to St. Martin's in town. And it was full. Unfortunately, everybody who was sitting around didn't speak English.
Oh no!
Yeah, so...
Oh well, that kind of stuff.
It was amazing. I mean, everybody around us is speaking a different language.
Yeah.
It's very multicultural.
Yeah.
It is difficult though, isn't it? I mean, you can't just walk up to somebody and say, you believe in God, can I introduce you to
I certainly haven't seized any opportunities like that. Yeah, and I've helped adults as well. But they won't know there's anything behind that.
This image here is the image that is on the material for this week, and I really like it with the looking down at the feet and thinking who's on the journey with you. And so, what difference does being part of a church family make to you? And actually to take that into where has it helped you step out in faith or grow in faith? Because you could say, well, I love being part of the church community, and thanks very much, I'm not going to do anything with it. And there's plenty of people in churches that's exactly what they are, which is why when we talk maybe about the church changing or the church doing something different, they get really like, oh, you can't do that? Because it's their comfort zone, whereas actually there's a sense of the church being a place that we go out from. This is our training ground, this is our encouragement, this is where we can be resourced. So have a think about those questions then. Move on to have a look at those. I mean, you could say it doesn't make any difference, of course, and that's fine too.
No. We're not aware of it necessarily. Yeah. Quite often if people ask me about the weekend or what did I do at the weekend, like this one just I say, oh, it was lovely, but we didn't do much. And then I remember we were in church Saturday morning, so then I said, oh, we went to church Saturday morning, it's a group leaders thing, and I do go back now at church in, where I would have probably just left it out, because, you think, well, I suppose I've just got into the habit really of not saying, always was Sunday morning, yeah, nothing ever comes from it, but I will. Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the comment. What, on a Saturday morning? I was like, yeah. In the workplace, that's just, people were just aghast. Yeah. We did, and it was a good session. But it stopped us coming on Sunday because I couldn't afford 2 lots at the time. Yeah. I don't know why I would naturally leave the church now. I don't know why I would naturally. My natural would be to leave the church bit out of what you did at the weekend. I don't know why.
I think probably because you mixed with your own. It's something that is really...
Yeah, it's something that makes you, I don't know, maybe a little bit vulnerable, maybe, to people. No, I think I deliberately mix it out. I started to go back and say, oh, but I did do. That must be my good instinct almost. Yeah, and I suppose it's a fear of ridicule, really. It's a fear of people saying, oh, you're wasting your time doing that. But it's not a conscious fear, it's just a habit that I've got into.
I think the only thing I'm guilty of is I don't want to sort of go to join the eggs and I'm friendly. I'm not going to Christian. Sitting around I thought maybe we should say Christian.
Yeah.
So hopefully you've got lots of stories and ideas. If you've talked about something on your table within your particular group, if you talked about something on your table or in your particular group that you think, oh, actually that's really helpful or that's been really important to me, just encourage you to share it and just briefly. I know, Tracy, I was hearing a couple of your stories.
Our daughter Amy, she's at university now, but during lockdown we used to sit and watch the church service the old church we used to go to on the TV, and all of a sudden we noticed that she'd suddenly appeared on Sunday morning in her pyjamas when she got a cup of tea, and she'd sort of be looking at it and looking at her book and looking up. And now she's at church in Nottingham and helping out with children's groups. I'm very involved, so it's really things, things that we do at home can mean have a great impact.
Yeah. So just in the family, and often we don't naturally think of that as our front line. But boy, I mean, so many of you looking around, you've got grandchildren, children. You know, you've got families that you can make a difference with, and it will have an impact. There might be a slow drip impact, it might be all at once, but any other things, opportunities or times that you think it's helped me step out?
I saw a couple of chaps coming to the door with folders under their arms. Thought they were Jehovah's Witnesses. So when they got to the door and I opened the door, I said, "I'm sorry, I'm a Christian. I've got my own beliefs. I'm not interested in yours." And he said, "I'll come and see if you want new windows, mate."
But actually, let me tell you about Jesus.
You should have gotten through the door.
You might have sowed a seed.
Any other stories or things that you think have helped you step out of it? I think, so doing this last week, it's been really interesting. So obviously the last 6 weeks or so, I've not really been out anywhere, out and about. And I was thinking about my front lines because of doing this. And it just sort of brought me back to, well actually, who do I meet? Who do I see? And people often think the vicars meet loads of people. Actually, sometimes we don't. You know, it's really strange. We end up being with the Christians. And I was thinking about it, and I went for my first walk last week into the park. And to be honest, the first half of the walk, I think, was more concentrating on actually walking. But then I began actually thinking, well, come on then, Lord. Who can I talk to? And I don't think I would have had that on my heart if we hadn't been encouraging one another last week. And in the end, I had a chat with a lady, I had a chat with a guy, I had a chat with two girls with their babies who I invited to toddler group. And as I said, "Hey, you don't want to come to a toddler group, do you?" And the girl said, "I was just thinking about that." I was like, "Well, we've got one, come on, Monday morning." When they'll come, I don't know, but I could just say, actually, I'm the vicar from the church, and her reaction was, her friend said, "Where's that? Where's the church?" And she said, "That's the one with the food bank, isn't it?" So we've already had a connection with her, and now there's kind of another connection. So, you know, but so thank you for encouraging me, because that's really helpful. This is, if you like, the theme of this week. Gaining confidence for our front lines when we're part of an encouraging church community. And it is really encouraging. Jane's not here. She'll probably listen on this video or whatever and go, "Oh my goodness, she talked about me." But actually, Jane really encourages me, because she'll go, "I met this person on the bus and I did so-and-so happened and I prayed with them." And I'm like, "That's amazing. How wonderful is that?" And, you know, when we can encourage one another, it does trigger a bit more confidence in you to think, "Oh, maybe I'll go out and be bold." And some days you don't, it doesn't quite work like that, does it? I don't call. But what if on those other occasions you go, "Actually, I will just throw something in." And you might have to plan it and prepare it. But let's be community and be encouraging one another. Because when we're together in church, it's like this, the dots at this corner, and we're together, and it feels good, because we're with other Christians, and it's great being a Christian when you're with other Christians. And then you go to work, or you go home to your family who aren't Christians, or you go to a club somewhere, golf club, whatever it is, and actually suddenly there's us and a lot of people who aren't believers. So the 6 dots that are in red depict the 6% of people in the UK who go to church at least once a month. So this is an LICC diagram here. So 6%, so 6 out of every 100 people actually will get something of what church is about. And the rest are going, huh? And it doesn't mean they're anti, they just forget it. Like, why would you do that? And my brother's reaction when I became a Christian was, you used to have girlfriends, what's happened to you? You know, he just didn't get it. How would he know? We hadn't been brought up going to church, we didn't know what a Christian community looked like. So he was a bit suspicious. And my parents were suspicious that I joined a cult. So, neither of which were true, I'm glad to know. But then when those 6 people are spread out, you might want to think where you work at the moment and how many people are Christians. I think actually, sometimes you don't know any. When I looked back to the school that I went to, I didn't really know any Christians there, but I remember that there was one guy who was a teacher, and I thought, do you know what, he was a Christian. And I have no idea how I even knew that, but that was the only influence in a school of 1,200 people for me. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't Christians there. So it matters that actually when we're together doing church, that's not just so we feel warm and comfy and cosy, and then we kind of close our eyes and go, as we go out into the world. It's to give us confidence to go out into the world. But what if we need to kind of keep coming back? If you are on your own for a while in a community that isn't Christian, then it's going to get harder and harder potentially. But actually, if you can keep dipping back in, which is, encourage one another to be part of church, be part of home groups, all the rest of it, then that can really help. So now is an opportunity to look at a couple of Bible readings from this week's devotionals. So on the tables there are 2 sheets, so there's Philippians 2, and then 1 Thessalonians 5. Now you've got both sheets to just have a look at. I have extended one of the passages, so it's a bit longer. So grab a Bible. Don't forget you've got the contents page at the beginning, if you need to find where it is. So Philippians 2 is it doesn't matter what order you do, but probably you do that one first. And think about what might help you try and start small and look like
It might have to shine like stars. Kindness and compassion, not everybody shows that. Don't be selfish. Don't boast. Be humble. See, I naturally look out for other people's interests, not just my own. It's just part of my personality.
I know people that have joined after me and I haven't trained them, but they've gone on to managers.
Maybe not many schools would have offered somebody who was going to be stood out and hold a cup of tea this morning at their own cost, because it meant that I couldn't actually get my last bit of work done for the meeting.
Going back to the street, consciously, it's suffering.
Yeah.
You've not known you've offered them a cup of tea
Oh, have I though, or am I just a nice person?
That brings back to the argument that being nice doesn't mean you're Christian.
What are you thinking, Tom?
Yeah, so then you will shine like stars in the sky.
Yeah.
Philippians 2. Demons, like stars in Philippians 2, verse 15.
I think
Lost you.
yeah, it's because it's not shining. No, but it refers to God's perfect children. Shine among, oh it does, yeah, shine among them like stars lighting up the sky. What did
A breath of fresh air into the squalid and polluted society.
Yeah, just as let your light shine brightly.
Yeah, does that talk about shining lights?
Yeah, carry the light of the message into the night. Present the message of everything.
Yeah. So what would it look like on our front line to shine like these stars? And again on Friday, it's what I would normally do, but I know there's a child with a need, and I know English is not the first language, so I set up a meeting with an interpreter to talk about the need, and the parents were thrilled. The older sister had started to notice that there was a need and talk to their parents about it, but they didn't know how to go about getting any help. And that's nerve-wracking for a while, because there's a conversation going on that you don't understand, it's hard to pick up on. And then when the interpreter turned around and said, they can't believe it, they're thrilled because they've been starting to think about this but didn't want to know about it. That's what I do anyway.
I think because when you're busy, you don't think I'm Christian. Subconsciously you do it because God's will.
Again, people wouldn't go out of their way to set that up on the off chance that you might be able to help. They'd just leave it until somebody, they were able to communicate their needs, or the child has grown up and gone and missed. You shine like a star
is sort of and he says, I want you to remember this lesson from and in business it's one of the most important things you can do. He says, you can get in business, anything. But one thing you can't get away with is you can lose your integrity. Integrity is the most important goal. Once you pass that, you've lost it.
That's in life, I think.
So it doesn't talk about
You can't get it back, can
that's
you?
what this is about.
Yeah.
When you say something, it might not be true. But as long as you believe or think it's true, you know, I mean, you can make mistakes, but as long as you're not knowingly making mistakes.
Yeah.
You'll never forget.
It's true. It's like trust, isn't it? And honesty. Once you've lost the respect for
Let's
those.
do a little bit of feedback about I think it's really funny that Shine Like Stars is actually in this version. So our versions don't shine like stars.
No, it's not my
Shine bright. So what might help us? So, you know, when you read this passage, what does it make you think that will help us shine like stars? What is it that's going to help us? You can summarise it, can be individual, make individual comments about it. What sorts of things?
I think for me, Alison, when I first became a Christian long time ago, what kind of first drew me to the faith was seeing difference in people's lives. I didn't know what that difference was. I couldn't put it into words, but their lives were different, and whatever it was, I wanted something of what they got, even though I didn't know what they got.
Yeah.
And they were definitely shocking.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful. But this is like a summary, isn't it, of how we want everybody to live, actually. What a difference it would make when we do it as a community. And then when we go from here as a community, and they are different values. They're not the same as the world lives by. And it's a little bit of a shock, actually, that the world does something totally different. When you become a Christian and you've maybe, you know, not grown up in the church, like, you know, I haven't, and people like Lee haven't, you know, and actually it's a bit of a shock when you walk into a church like that, I think. It's kind of like, that's not okay to do or say then. Oh, that's strange. Because, you know, you're not used to it. You know, there's all sorts of things, whether it's that you can actually trust people and they'll keep your confidence. That's a huge one as Christians. You know, the world doesn't work like that. You tell someone something and they'll be all over the shop before you know it. Whereas actually as Christians, you know, the fact that we should be able to trust each other, wow, how amazing is that? And then you'll find that people will want to talk to you about some things that are really deep because they know how you're going to treat them, how you're going to love them, and how you're going to respect them. So all of those things. So what would it look like on your front line? Shine like a star.
We talked a little bit about verse 3 and 4, about not being selfish and thinking and reaching out to others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other-centeredness.
Other-centeredness. Oh, that's good. Anything from the gentleman? Encourage the gentleman to take.
Sorry.
That was just the steamship coming. Actually, it's a cruise ship. It'll be quite fun.
Oh, dear.
We didn't read verse 12 and 13, but reading this reminds me of the bit in the Sermon on the Mount where you put your lamp out on the hill, and it ends with, so they see your good deeds and glorify God. And verse 12 and 13 do that as well.
Yeah.
It's God who works in you to will and act in order to fulfill his purpose. So it's about what you do as well as what you are. Yeah.
Fantastic, right. Have a look then at 1 Thessalonians 5. I've added a bit to the original Bible reading and read a little bit more. When it says pick out all the commands, there's actually not a lot. You don't necessarily need to do all, but just kind of find some of them.
By 11 to 24. Pick out commandments.
And if you're trying to find it, just keep going from Philippians through Colossians, and then you're into Thessalonians after that. And there's a 1 and a 2, just watch out for. 1 Thessalonians
We urge you to take tender
Lots of commandments. Full of them. I'm on verse 23.
Sums it all up, and it fits back to what you said, Tom, about integrity.
Verse 23.
The God who makes everything holy and whole, make you holy and whole, put you together, spirit, soul and body, and keep you fit to the coming Master, Jesus Christ. So it's the same thing.
Integrity is all of those things, isn't it? Why does it say spirit, soul and body? Why are spirit and soul separate?
The Holy Spirit, your soul,
Oh, with the Holy
and the
Spirit
human body.
in you.
The Spirit is within, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe
That's my interpretation.
should have a capital S.
Yes, yeah. The Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my own spirit is the soul.
Because God Himself, who makes everything holy, is making you holy and whole, putting you together with, and I'm putting words in now, the Spirit, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Spirit should have a capital S then.
Alison had the answer.
I think it's all boils down.
Verse 23. It says, make you holy and whole, and put you together, spirit, soul, and body. The Spirit, talk about the Holy Spirit.
that was our spirit.
Why is the spirit and the soul separate then? Ah, right.
But they do sometimes.
Because if it was the Holy Spirit, it would be a capital S, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Spirit and soul.
But it's still that word that you mentioned earlier, integrity, comes across in all of it.
Yeah. There's lots of commands, and then verse 23 sums it up with basically what is integrity. Yeah.
And it all goes back to the chapter it was after verse 11, wasn't it? So you want chapter 8 for that encouragement like in all of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, and lots of them. Yeah. It talks about respect, doesn't it? Proper respect.
I think it also hits slow to anger, look at everything calmly.
Yeah, lots of patience. Yeah.
And then it was,
Yeah.
you don't see yourself, I don't see myself, it's like when I see itself here.
Can't see
If
itself
other
showing,
people
can
looking
it?
at you, you've got to stand out as a star, not try and
But you might not realise that you do it
So
yourself.
you've got to live like that.
Yeah.
so people can see yourself, not rather than try and be a star. You've got to say because people can see you.
Yeah. So our job is to shine like us, in
Yeah,
that sense
yeah.
that we're bringing light to really,
Yeah.
because we're different. And it won't always feel like it. It just makes sense.
So
Times
that's
when
what
you go.
carry the message of the darkness and carry the light.
It's the message that's the star as well, then. The message that you've got to give. Shining.
It's the rundown thing, we did said it just now. You've not done that intentionally because you know you've done it. And that person
Well, it's just different, isn't it? A lot of people would just be like, oh, I'll see you at 9:30. And when they say, well, we'll just wait outside, they'll be like, all right then, see you at 9:30. But to me, that was wrong. So I brought her inside. Even though it meant I couldn't finish the work I needed to do before the meeting with her.
our term for Christ, just we're doing it for we're doing it subconsciously, it's just
I think all of it's subconscious. I don't think you would deliberately.
to say I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
I think the conscious bit comes in saying, I'm going to live my life differently.
Yeah, that's the start, isn't it? And that's what you've got.
And then, well, it's like that they talk, don't they, about unconscious competence. You know, when you're learning to do something initially, you're basically consciously incompetent.
Yeah.
And you move to the point of being consciously competent eventually. Unconsciously competent, as in you don't have to think about it anymore, you just do it. And that's, I guess, our discipleship is, and to be with, you do lose your temper, and it keeps happening. But actually then the conscious part is to say, Lord, I'm not okay, that I don't like that about me, and it's not how you want me to be, so now will you start to change me and show me how to be different. And that's the conscious part. Of course, when we're actually at work or wherever we are, and it just comes out.
Yeah.
But it's the refining of God, isn't it?
Being aware of it, isn't it? And wanting to change it.
And not just saying, oh, it's just
the way out. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's very much a 21st century thing. There's no expectation that people will change and be more godly. We don't care. I guess.
No, right. The amount of people that say, well, I've got no filter, and that has to be okay. It's not, is it? Find a filter. Yeah.
It's strange that they put spirit and soul separately. It's strange they put spirit and soul separately.
Between side, I've got better than 2020 vision. The consultant said, I was and they said today, my eyes are excellent. They're excellent individually.
Don't work well together.
So I've got these glasses, and these glasses are about 7 years old. So my eyesight's improved no end, so I don't really need them. But if I do without them, I haven't got the prisms. So I have difficulty like seeing it because I see a blurred double vision. And today, she put it right. She said that these prisms and these glasses are far too powerful. I don't need them. That paper, It's eternal. You'll be able to read properly.
You'll be fine. You'll be able to see it all.
It's brilliant. Ordinary, no matter. But both together.
Yeah.
Together, she said, that's brilliant. Directing the vision of each one. It's not directing one. But it should be able to direct to correct that.
We're going to move on, not because I really want to stop you, because certainly the conversation I'm hearing are great, but equally I do want you to be able to go to my 9 o'clock. So, this passage then, any things come out from your conversations, either directly from questions or just summaries? So all in this kind of sense of how we're going to live more confidently, not just here surrounded by Christians, but out in our worlds, wherever they go.
What do you say about standing up for injustice? And when you see people who are downtrodden and will be represented, being prepared to support, even if it's supporting a cause from a distance, financially, or maybe those people who are in a position, work life or social life, that you can help to represent some of those community, those parts of the community that are. So I'm trying to think which actual verse we sort of pick that up from, but the take care of those who are weak and be able to speak out really. Sometimes if you see things where people have been mistreated.
Yeah. So caring in the first place and then trying to do something about it, whatever level. We can't always do something about it at a big level, but we might be able to. And let's face it, the world's being changed by people who have gone, I'm not going to let that go. And have made real differences, and many times they're Christians. Whether it's Wilberforce or slavery or Martin Luther King, who read this, there have been so many different Christians who've had an impact. So would it help you live more confidently for Jesus, reading those verses and thinking, this is how I can do this, this is how I can make a difference, but we need each other within it. And that how can we help each other, I think is really important. Because we're going to have to help each other to do these things. I think it was Anna that said this is difficult, and it is. These are not easy things. So there's the question, how can we help each other? Encourage one another and build each other up. On a Sunday morning, how are we going to do that? On your tables there are some yellow strips of paper. And there are some ideas there about what might help us both grow community and be community and help us on our front lines. I'm hoping I managed to split them up right. I think I did. So you shouldn't have more than one of the same thing. You've got lots of different ideas there. So have a look at them. And I was wondering, which of those would give you most confidence to live as a Christian and why? So this is confidence in the community. So we're looking at it as Christians, we're looking at it as community. You may decide that having looked at each of them, that you decide that you want to put them in order. So you might say, actually that's my number one. You might have a fight about it, and that's fine, as long as you do it nicely. Because you might say, no, this would be the most important for me. But talk about why. What difference would these things make? Being on the front line, your confidence, and these are all about being community in some form or other, big or small. So it's about what gives you confidence to go out.
Sunday worship.
Yeah, I'd put that.
It tops me up for the week, don't know about you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can be Saturday, I can almost feel like a bit of
Yeah.
I'd have put those the other way around.
Someone who will pray for you tomorrow.
Why pray for them tomorrow? Why not pray for them today?
Pray for today, but what about if on your front line tomorrow you're facing an interview, or someone says, I'll pray for you. Someone's asked you about your front line. These are all, I mean, you can, there's obviously, you can fill these out. Then you might not be praying today as well. You might actually also think of some other things that you want to ask. Have a bit of paper down, because these are just some ideas. So what sorts of things would most encourage you? What sort of things would most encourage you? But what about community? So this is doing it together. And they might be doing reading the Bible together. Or WhatsApp someone with a Bible verse.
Yeah.
So how do you encourage somebody? How would these things encourage you? And it might be, actually, I'll share a Bible verse with that person today, right now. Because I can just know that they're really encouraged.
Well, that's what he's right.
You don't know what to say. I'm not sure it's listening.
I'm not sure to
I don't think there's anything. I think God
Often can.
I think God
since I've been at home group, better. First time home group, I need to pray.
And that's why I always say you don't have to pray.
Yeah.
Nobody has to.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you can pray 3-4 words, that's just as good. And often better than somebody that prays 100 words.
Somebody that prays, you can talk to somebody, you know.
some people are more confident than others, and sometimes it grows you and sometimes it doesn't. It's different. We're not going the same path. I remember when I first went to a church where we had seminary prayer, I wasn't really comfortable with it, but they used to pass the candle around and they used to say, if you can't find words to say out loud, you just say, have a silence, amen, say it in your head and pass the candle. So sort of pressure off having to, some people seem really good at it, and I used to find that really intimidating, because they seem to know what to say and I didn't know what to say, and then I sort of inside felt, God knows.
Absolutely.
I'm sure God knows, I don't have to be that articulate. I think there's something, I think so too, and I think that's okay, we're not the same. I think I've just got better at saying it as well. Like today, I said to somebody who I see for a while, I'm not likely to see for a while, I'm still praying for you. I'm still praying, until the others, I'm still praying for them, even though I'm not seeing them.
In reality, I often talks to royalty and everything else. I'm not butting in like that.
God knows what's on your heart anyway, so you don't need to say it. You don't need to
People always said that. They said, well, you don't have to run along to just say what you know. It's only just occurred to me.
Would you like to do that?
I think That would be difficult.
You don't have to listen to people that do pray out loud in meetings and stuff. Some are really quiet and humble the way they do it, some are quite strong and confident.
Maybe, you know, I remember for a long while I would like to have prayed in tongues, but it just didn't come to me. And I know people prayed for us and that I said, it just didn't happen for years and years and years. You know, 20 years it just didn't happen. But I did want it, but it just didn't come, you know what I mean. 20 years I felt a bit of a failure. I thought I should be able to do it. It's like them saying prayed for me for a long while, and then it actually happened. And I was really surprised with it. It's the confidence building. I know you're confident in that environments, but you know, perhaps maybe it's something about what if I say to one thing I don't say as eloquently. Verbalise it in your mind, maybe.
I think that sums it up, verbalise it in your mind.
Yeah.
And then not knowing what to say.
Sometimes that's the prayer you've got to say.
I can think of prayer.
Yeah.
I'm talking about saying prayer. I'm talking about praying out loud.
And that's it is. Let some people go.
It's okay.
It's perfectly okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you can say Amen, right? Or the Lord's Prayer. Oh yeah. Well, there you go. I have to remember on Sundays not to say the tradition. I've been using it saying the biblical.
Still trespassing.
Yeah, I'm still trespassing.
I do a combination sometimes. I merge the
Sometimes you
two.
get off of this and
I do that. Yeah.
concentrate on the
I think the Lord's Prayer is easy because you know what to say and people know what you're going to say. I wouldn't worry about it, Tom, just go with the flow. Don't say it out loud, don't say it out loud. And if you just want to say a few words, say a few words.
I've got to say a few words
I never used to say it out loud.
Yeah, you can understand that.
If you can say the Lord's Prayer and Amen, you're all right. Then you don't have to worry about the other stuff. You can say the Lord's Prayer. If you put the Lord's Prayer apart, if you ever went through the you took it line by line, you can see it's packed with everything you need. That's your suitcase prayer. It's got everything in it. Amen, so be it. That's it. That's all you need. The other stuff is just preparation. Sometimes I think I pray because I need to say the word. You don't need to say the word.
Well, you want me to pass it again?
Just say the Lord's Prayer and you got it.
Yeah.
Call it your suitcase prayer.
I've also got to pray for something, haven't you?
Where's that put?
The family, the war in Ukraine, you know, what's going on in the world.
You've just done that. But you've just done that. You've mentioned it out loud. Do you have to say fancy words with it?
Yeah, I agree.
You just said it. You just said it out loud. That's enough. You don't have to say fancy words with it. I mean, we've invented fancy words around it. Some don't need fancy words. It's just what's in there. I never used to be very articulate when I was younger. I realised that
I've never really
the first bit straight actually it's a bit hard. He knows what I'm really thinking. I want to say this, but actually what I'm thinking is that he knows it, so I better say the opposite. But, you know, as soon as you say the will, you know, praying, my family, my church, you said it. There's nothing else. You don't need no fancy words.
Let's take the pressure off, Tom.
What about this one?
Sorry.
There's until we'd done this group, I don't think anybody had asked me about a front line. I don't think anybody would have known what it was.
Very sad about difficulty understanding what it actually is, but I assume she's...
We would have asked about a front line now.
Because it's been introduced to us.
Introduced to us, but it
Yeah,
hadn't
no.
been introduced.
I think my front line tends to be with other Christians.
And I think if it hadn't been introduced in the way it has, we'd probably think of one front line, but actually we're on loads, aren't
And that's the legalised, is that somebody's going to actually ask me, apart from people in this group.
we? How's your front line? Yeah, I can't see anyone asking me that at work tomorrow. How's your front line?
And it's probably the most challenging one of the lot. That's the easy one. These are the easier ones. These three sit in the middle somewhere, and that's probably the bottom one.
And if I had a pen, I was going to write sharing the word. That's easy if you're sharing it with another Christian. It's not so
Sharing the word with Christians
and sharing
the world with the world.
Yeah, it's not so easy, is it? Telling Christians you're praying for them is easy. Telling somebody whose husband's just committed suicide and their kids are beside themselves is not easy. Because where's God in that situation for them?
Compassion. Compassion. Sometimes
Yeah.
You need to say it, but it's not easy to say.
No.
That's what Tracy's trying to say.
Yeah, it's not.
If somebody who's not
Somebody that doesn't want to hear
not in a
it.
position that wants to hear it still needs to be said in some way or done.
I know what the answer is. I know it's compassion, but I think you show a bit of compassion sometimes in not forcing that onto people, even though you are.
You pray for them without them knowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we go to bed?
No.
What were you going to write there?
Sharing the word with Christians.
Again, that won't be easy for everybody.
No.
Because they might not be comfortable talking about their faith, whether they're in a Christian environment or not.
And then sharing the word with non-Christians.
So how do we get on? Has everybody managed to get every definitive order?
Not really.
So you've got no?
We've got 2 extra ones.
That's great. There isn't an order, is there? They're all different, and they've all got important things about them. There is something though about this big church, and then small church, small groups, and then there's the 2s and 3s, and maybe even 1-to-1s. And all of those levels are important in helping give us confidence. You can't talk about things that are really your heartaches and heartbreaks very easily on a Sunday morning when someone then bundles in and goes, "Morning, do you want a coffee?" Yeah, you're like, you've just bared your soul to somebody. Now, I'm not saying that never happens, of course it does, but actually it's more likely to be in the 2 or 3 and a smaller group. So it's just worth thinking about that. And I think here, we haven't really had, sometimes we call them prayer triplets. Sometimes in the diocese at the moment they're called supervision triangles. I think it'll be a bit more chilled than that if I'm doing it, but anyway. But the same kind of idea of, just 3 of you that share some commonality can get together and talk about stuff that matters and pray for one another. And in those kind of contexts, sometimes everybody shares something, sometimes just one person does. And it's like, we just pray. So, it might be worth thinking about who would you get together with? Who would you have on call? So I know you've got some extra ones, so what are your extras?
Sharing God's stories,
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, sharing God's stories.
Get used to hearing what God is doing in your life, and therefore you look out for it more in your own life.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we should start asking each other, you know, what happened this week? What happened on your front line?
That's the new.
We haven't done it for a while in church, but quite often, when we were in church, we haven't actually done it really that well in here, but we'd often say, what's God done this week? And part of that is sharing the story. And also, I don't know about you, but occasionally, especially when you're needing those things, you're like, what has God done? And it makes you actually go, okay, God, you better start intervening and doing something, because I need to know that you're at work, and not just sort of hearing everybody else's story. I get a bit jealous sometimes, like, oh, I've all got to do that. But isn't that right? You know, that we're all going, yeah, come on, Lord, let's see. So what else have we got? Anything else?
I was about the WhatsApp prayer triplets.
So WhatsApp prayer triplets, that's really great. We did have some, so a few years back we had some WhatsApp groups, and they were really effective for a little while. They actually probably got too big. And once they get too big, and then information is being shared too broadly, and then they kind of collapse. So you've got to kind of keep them quite small, which is a bit tough, because someone might go, can I join? It's like, can we make another? Any other extras that people put on?
We've got sharing the word with Christians as being something that's probably easier to do, definitely easy to do, and then sharing the word with non-Christians, which is harder.
Yeah. And this is the practice ground. This is the practice ground for sharing our stories. It's the practice ground for having Bible verses for each other. You know, when we have those times when we're just waiting on the Lord, I'm always saying, God, so have you got anything you want to say? And sometimes I'll probably get it wrong, but sometimes, you know, I'll think, actually, this is what I think I'm saying. But this is the place, isn't it, to share them. And then when you actually go into another situation where actually they're not Christians, you can think, oh, God's just spoken to me. They still know that I am God. I'll share that with them. You know, that's not threatening, actually, for the person that we're sharing with. So it's the practice ground, so that's really helpful. Any others? Or any other thoughts that people had? Does this encourage you to do this more, to be community more? It's so lovely actually having a Lent course to be able to even do this in. So this in itself is encouraging. In fact, we should have put a Lent course. But this in itself is actually part of our growing community and part of our being encouraged to go into this week and think what's next sort of thing. This is sort of a similar idea really. Is there anything you can do in your group or wider church that would encourage one another on your front lines and give each other confidence there? How could you introduce or develop some of these ideas? So it might be, actually, I do want to be in a prayer group, I do want to be in a WhatsApp group. But I'm just going to give you a few moments, not necessarily to talk to each other, but just to write something down. You can use those little bits of paper or back of them or whatever, but just write down, you know, what would be helpful in adding to the community that you've already got? What would be helpful in sort of next level that you think, actually, it would really help if I could tell someone about my front line every week? So give me a moment just to think about that, and then I'm going to read you a story time.
I think that's a good way to go. I quite like the idea of triplets, because then
Big meeting, this is helpful, isn't it? Big meeting, this is helpful, isn't it?
6, 7. I'm probably going to 4 3.
Yeah, so you can go.
We're not pressured. I'm not going to do 7. That's fancy. Yeah. What's the idea?
So write something down if you need to, if you want a reminder, especially if you're saying, I'd really like to do this, then write it down, because tomorrow morning when you've totally forgotten about it, because you're on your front line, it'll be there to go, actually, what do I need to do about it? So here's story for the night. So this is Deborah and Joy's story. So over the past few days we've been thinking about how we can draw confidence from one another. Here's how it looked for Deborah and Joy. They met through church, were part of the same small group, but they had quite different front lines, places where they regularly spent time building relationships with non-Christians. Deborah's primary front line was her local gym. It was a nice gym, not one of those places people go to build their egos in tandem with their muscles. But still, it was a place where she wanted to be confident. Confident to strike up conversations with others, confident to go beyond the surface, confident in blessing staff and her fellow fitness fanatics. Joy's main front line was quite different, a rather gossipy health clinic. Here, Joy needed confidence not to get drawn into the all too frequent backbiting, and confidence to help wounded and warring colleagues take steps towards healing and peace. As well as catching up before or after services, and as well as studying the Bible, sharing and praying together in their small group, Deborah and Joy would WhatsApp each other at different points in the day. They'd share verses of encouragement, update each other on how situations were going, request prayers, share prayers, and generally help each other keep going. By the grace of God, it was a friendship that grew their confidence for their front lines. By the grace of God, day by day, Deborah made a difference to the gym. And by the grace of God, Joy made a difference in the clinic. Who might be your Deborah, and to whom might you be a Joy? And that's the question, isn't it? It's not just about what we get out of it. It's, how we're going to encourage somebody else or a group of people. So there's the two sides of that. So I'm not sure you might be thinking about it only from your own perspective of what would encourage me. But as we finish, you might also want to think what would encourage others. How could you be community to other people as well? So we're going to be out on our front lines tomorrow. You might even going home to your front line tonight. We are all going home and soon. But you might want to think, what aspect of community do you think will be most helpful to remember? It might be something from the Bible verses, particularly, that you can take away with you. And then when we've done that, we're going to pray together. So I'm going to give you a few moments to pray now for your front lines before we pray a prayer together. So you can pray quietly on your own if you'd like, or you can pray together, but you have only got 2 minutes to do this particular bit. So this isn't the time for long stories. So it's time for praying. So you may find that you want to pray on your own, and that's absolutely fine. So let's finish by praying this prayer together. Lord, thank you for our church and our brothers and sisters in Christ. Lord Jesus, you walk through life with confidence and you go to death with courage. May we encourage one another to grow in confidence as followers of Jesus wherever we are. From our friendships, may we grow more confident and courageous as we seek to follow you. Amen. Thanks for coming, everybody. Same time next week. Shall see you then.